Okay, in the last session, we did discuss about our form and list layout, and then we saw the context menu. We understood the difference between the personalized versus configurations when it comes to modifying the form layout or list layout. Okay, so we'll start from that point. Okay, so we did see how we can configure uh, our list layout. Okay, and we just went through the form layout, so we'll revise on the form layout. Okay, so if we go here, type incident. Okay, you will see this incident form layout. So yesterday we saw this list layout and how you can change the order of these columns, how you can add the fields or the columns which are not here but on the table. Okay, we saw the two options. One is this, a personalized option. You click on this gear icon and do the configuration which is available to everyone. Okay, and yeah, and then there is another option. You can configure as an admin. Okay, go here, configure list layout. Okay, to modify the list layout. Okay, the difference we saw between these two, when we do the personalized list, the changes will be applicable to you only. But as an admin, when you do a configuration using this option, then that is applicable to everyone platform wide. Okay, similarly, we have an option for configuring the form layout as well, and this is an option for configuring, sorry, personalizing form layout. Okay, you can click here. Here you will be able to see list of the of fields which are available on the form, the non-tick one which are something not available on the form. If you want to get them on the form, you can click on it. Let's say I'm clicking on the service, so now you will see the service field is available. Okay, now I don't want this to be shown to me active, so I can just click on this minus icon and that will be removed from the form. But this change I am doing you know is applicable for me only, since I'm using the personalized form layout option. Okay, but as an admin, when I wanted to do the changes to the form layout which I want to be applicable to the everyone, then I can go here, configure form layout. Here I will, in the selected bucket, I can see the list of the columns or list of the fields which are shown on the form. Okay, you can select a field if you want and move their order by using up or down button. If you wanted to remove a particular field from the form, you can select that field and click on this remove button, so it will be removed from the form. If you wanted to add a new field on the form, then you can, so this is the available list of the fields on the table. So if you wanted to add those one of these field onto the form, you can click that field, okay, and send it here. Okay, for example, let's say we want this reopen count, okay, to be available on the form. Okay, so I can just let's say this I wanted after assign to, so I will just click on the reopen and then move it. Okay, so it's now available in the selected bucket. Then you can save it, and if now you will check the your form layout, you can see this field is now available on the form. Okay, if you don't want this field and you wanted to remove this field, okay, you can do it. You can go back, configure form layout, and you can remove this field. Okay. Okay, so on the form you would see this tabs. Okay, so these are called the sections. Okay, these are called the sections. So if you wanted to add or remove the fields from the sections, how you can do, or even if you wanted to create a new sections, how you can do. So for that you will be going here, form layout. Let's say what we will do. So we will okay, so already this recount field is there. Okay, okay, so we'll see these fields. Okay, yeah, we'll see this form sections. Okay, so if you go here below, here you can see the form view and sections. Okay, and here you see the sections. Okay, so the incident, so currently clicked on the incident, so this is the main form section. It's with the name of the table. Okay, so from the number, this channel, everything till the description, this is the one main form section. Okay, this is the one main form section. Okay, the where I have clicked on the incident. Okay, and this what you see here in the selected are the fields on this main form section, and then you have this other sections. Okay, notes, and in the notes you have this field, in the related records you have this field, in the resolution notes you have this field. Okay, if you go here you will see this section notes, and these are the fields on the note section. If you click here on the related record, these are the fields on the related records. Resolution information, if you click on this section you will see this are the field under this section. Okay, this for example knowledge, this resolution, code resolution notes. Okay, you can see here. So you need to select the section, and then these fields will appear. Okay, so if you wanted to add remove, it's same. You will, if you wanted to remove, you will select that field and then remove. If you wanted to add more field, then you can just click available and move here in this bucket. Okay, just one thing, you need to select the section on which you wanted to add the fields or remove the fields. Okay, okay, if you wanted to create a new section, then here is a new button or a link. You can click on new, give it a name for a new section. Okay, and click on OK. For example, let's say we wanted to uh, okay. Okay, so let's say we wanted to create a one more section here after the resolution information. We'll give it a name like more details or more information. Okay, more details. Okay, so this is the section name. Okay, okay, so this is a new section is created, more details. Here I this is available list. Here I can add the fields. Okay, let's say what I wanted to add, let's say created, say created by, then updated and updated by. Okay, so now what will happen, we will have one more section created here, and that will have these four fields. Okay, so let me save it. Okay, so now you can see there is this one more section created. Okay, more details, and it has these four fields that we have added. Okay, now let's say what you want instead of this field coming one by one, Okay, you want it to be divided into the two columns like this. Okay. Mm, you see this knowledge, and then you see this resolved by. Okay, side by side you want. Okay. So how you can do that? So let's say you want created and then created by. In the next column you will have updated. Okay, so if you wanted to divide it into the two column, then again you can go here, form layout, configure form layout. You will go into the section. Okay, more details. Now here is one split thing. Okay, split. Okay, so here in the available bucket you will see these options. Okay, split. Okay, so you can add this split. So it's basically wherever you put this split. Okay, it will divide it into the two columns. So it will have first created and then created by field, and then it will split, and in the next column you will have updated and updated by. Okay, so you can add the split to divide your screen into the two sections. Okay, like this you can now see this. Okay, all right. So that is about the form layout, configuring form layout. Yeah. Yes. Any question? Okay. So do you guys got a personal development instance? Any issue getting that? Because what I need, I mean, we are discussing here and we are, learning this. Okay. But I do want you to practice on your side. Okay. Once you have a class, you can practice those things what we discuss in the class in your own personal development instance. So if you are facing any challenge getting the personal development instance, please do let me know. Okay. All right. Okay. Now we'll take a look into what type of components you can use to do the customization and configuration in the service now. Okay. So there are I mean, yeah, two types of scripts or components. One which is running on the client side versus ones who would be running on the server side. Okay, so first let's understand what it mean by client side and server side. Okay, so client side means the user browser. Okay, uh, or the user machine. Okay, where you will have a browser. In the browser you will enter the URL, and then you will get connected to the address that you have entered into the URL. For example, when you type www.google.com in your browser, so that's your client side. Okay, and then what happens, whatever the request you are sending or whatever the URL or address you are putting into the browser, for that page the request will be sent. Okay, and that request will be sent to the data center or the where the application is hosted, and then it will give the result back to you as a response. Okay, so there is the two things. On the server side sorry, on the client side, what you will have your machine, you will have a browser, and of course an internet connection through which you can communicate to the any page on the internet. Okay, so that's on the server side. So it's, you have browser and you have limited instance access to instance data, and then you will use the browsers or your client side to make a request. Okay, so you will be requesting a page address from the browser, and then what happens in the you know server side. So these are basically the data centers where you will have uh, your application service servers hosted. You will have all the network infrastructure. You will have a database hosted. Okay, so when you make a request, it will be getting into the server side, where it will look into your application server. It will look into the database server. Okay, it will collect the data and then give result back in the form of response to you. That's how when you type www.google.com, you are sending a request from your client side to saying, you need to get the page. Okay, the Google page. Okay, and in the response, when the servers or when the server side receive your request, it will getting back you the page. Even when you search, okay, that search keywords you will be entering from your client side, but the result will be processed at the server side, and then you will get a response. Okay, so that's the very generic uh, understanding of server side versus the client side. Okay, so what we are going to do, so there would be components that ServiceNow has. Some of the components will be running on the client side, that is on your browser, and some of the components will be running on the server side. Okay, so there will be a two type of components that we are going to discuss. Okay, so customizing ServiceNow. Okay, so ServiceNow is very flexible in terms of what you can customize. There is rarely anything that you cannot change into the ServiceNow. Okay, even so what happens when you or organization gets subscription from the ServiceNow, you will get some modules as per your subscription, as per your needs, but they will be out of the box. Then you have an all flexibility to make the changes into the out of the box processes, components. Not only that, if even if you want to create your own applications, okay, as per your need, then also you can create your own applications within the service now. So it's very flexible in terms of the changes you can do onto the platform. Okay, and there are many places where you can apply the customization. Okay, so this is just list some list, but it's a more many more places where you can do the customization. Okay, so client script. Okay, so we will be going through this components one by one, like client script, business rules. Script include UI action, UI policy, data policy, and there are many more components. So we will be discussing them one by one. Okay, so first we'll see the UI policy. So yeah, so I mean in the UI policy you do have an option to, to script. Okay, usually we don't use the UI policy for a scripting purpose. If you have to script, then you can use another component, that is client script. Yeah, so when you use the UI policy is the case when you wanted to make a field on the form as a mandatory, or when you wanted to make a field read only, or when you wanted to show or hide a particular field, then you can use the UI policy. Okay. So like let's say we have this resolved state, the incident, and what you want when the user select it as resolved, we want, let's say the close nodes to be mandatory. Okay, so without selecting the close node, you don't want your incident to be resolved. Okay, so if you have some requirement, what you can do, you can simply use the UI policy. So when the user tries to,
So
submit the yeah,
your screen is not visible.
okay, let me see. So it was not visible from the beginning, or just now it stopped.
Just now.
Okay, now you can see, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So here I'm saying, so you can use UI policies mainly when you wanted to make a field mandatory, read only, or show either field on the form. Okay, for an example, let's say you have an incident, okay, and you wanted to resolve an incident, but what you wanted to make sure when anyone resolve an incident, they need to select the closed node, and unless they select the closed node, you want the incident not to be resolved. Okay, so in such case what you can do, you can create a UI policy. Okay, there are we will go through the UI policy format, but for an example purpose, what you can do, you can check the conditions, whenever the incident is resolved, then you will make this code, close code, mandatory. Okay, okay, so when to use the UI policy, for example, there are these two example given. Set an incident short description field to read only if the incident state is closed. Okay, let's say you wanted to make this short description field read only when the incident is in the closed state. You can use the UI policy. For example, hide an incident resolution notes field if the state is open. Okay, in the open state, if you wanted to hide this resolution notes field, okay, then you can use the UI policy. Basically, when you find a requirement to make a field mandatory, read only, or you wanted to show or hide a field on the form, in those all cases you will prefer to use the UI policy. Okay, now let's take a look into the UI policy into the service now. Okay, so if you wanted to see all the UI policy which are in your platform, so you can simply go here, type UI policies. Okay, and under the system UI you will see this UI policies. Okay, if you go here, okay, so you can see all these UI policies. There are around 2,339 UI policies. Okay, so this is a list of all the UI policy. If you wanted to, uh, if you wanted to see the UI policy on a particular table, then you can add the filter. Like let's say here table is the column. Okay, so table is, let's say, incident. So if you wanted to see the UI policy on the incident table, you can just add this filter. Now you will be able to see the UI policy on the incident table only. Okay, or let's say you are on this form, incident form is already open. You can go here, click configure, then here, sorry, configure, and then here you will see UI policies. Okay, so this will open the UI policies on the incident, plus is parent table, that is the task. We will discuss about this parent and child in upcoming section, but yeah, so you will, when you wanted to open the UI policy for a particular table or form, then you can just go here, configure UI policy. Okay, it will give you a list of all the UI policy on a particular table. Okay, I don't want it on the task. I can just... Okay, now let's take a look into one of the UI policy. Okay, okay, so this is a UI policy. Okay, this is how the UI policy looks. Okay, so what you have in the UI policy, the table. So here you will select the table on which you wanted to apply this UI policy. Okay, and then here is the short description. So you can give a meaningful description to the your UI policy. So here it says field set to mandatory for all states. Okay, so this is basically to uh, make the certain fields mandatory, irrespective of any condition. Okay, so what are those fields? Color and short description. So irrespective of any conditions, we want the color and short description field to be mandatory. So here you can see mandatory checked as true. If you open it, so here is the field on which you want either to be a mandatory, visible, or read only. Okay, you will select the field, and then you will select the option mandatory. If you wanted to make it a mandatory, you will click select true. If you wanted to, let's say, make it visible or non-visible, you would have select this. Otherwise, if you don't want this to be make visible, read only, then you can just leave it. Okay, so this was to make the mandatory only. So here is the field which you wanted to make a mandatory, and in the mandatory drop down you will be selecting true, so which will make this field mandatory. Similarly, short description, you can see here the field is short description and mandatory is set to true. So if you wanted to see how it works on the form, so you can see that this short description and this color is always mandatory irrespective of any condition. Okay, it's always mandatory. You can see that without filling these two values, without having the values in these two fields, you cannot submit the form. Okay, even if you create a new incident, you will see these two fields. So if I click on the new, even in the new state, you can see these two are mandatory, color and short description. This is because you have this UI policy configured. Okay, which says irrespective of any condition, make these two fields mandatory. Okay, now let's take an example of another. Okay, UI policy. Okay, so this is a UI policy. It's on the instance table, and is what it says: make fields read only on the close. Okay, this is the short description. You can give any short description, but it should be a meaningful. And here you can see the condition. Okay, so incident state is closed or incident state is cancelled. So what that means, this UI policy will be applicable only when this condition is satisfied. Okay, only when this condition is met, this UI policy will apply. When to apply? When this condition is satisfied. Okay, and what it will do, so there are this number of fields. They will This UI policy will make these fields read only. Okay, it will not doing anything on the visibility or mandatory. It's leaving them, but it's what it is doing, it is making all these fields read only. Okay, okay, but it is doing so in this condition only. Okay, so let's say we okay, so what we'll do, we'll open one of the incident in the closed state. Okay, all is fine. Okay, so I'm just closing this incident. So now you can see the certain fields like this. They are become non-editable. They are become read-only. It's because we have this UI policy. So it's take the state is closed. Then what it did, it make the state field read-only. It make the open by field mandatory, close at caller field mandate. Sorry, read only, impact, urgency, location. These fields mandate. Sorry, read only. Okay, so you can see the caller. Okay, impact, urgency, uh, priority. All those things are made read only. This is because of this UI policy. Okay, so you can see what the UI policy is generally having. Then option to select the table on which you wanted to run or the form on which you wanted to run the UI policy, then meaningful description, then the conditions. When those condition meets, this UI policy will execute and run, and what it will do, whatever the actions you have, or you have the field selected, and then you have selected what needs to be done on this, either you wanted to make it mandatory, visible, or read only. Okay, you can have a combination of these things as well as you needed. Okay, so now what we will do, let's see. Okay, we'll create a new UI policy. Okay, so what we will do, okay, so we wanted to make this field, service field, a mandatory field. So currently it's not a mandatory. Okay, so we wanted to make this service field mandatory. Okay, and what you will do if you have a requirement to make a field mandatory. Okay, whenever you get a requirement to make any field mandatory, read only, or show hide a field, you going to use the UI policy. Okay, so I'm going to use a UI policy. Okay, I wanted to make this field mandatory. Okay, a service field. So how I can do, I can go on to the UI policy and then just click new. Okay, so I, or even I can go here. Let me duplicate this. Okay, I can right click, configure UI policy. Okay, I wanted to so create, so here you will be able to see list of all the available UI policy. If you wanted to create a new, you will click on the new button. Okay, so we wanted this to be on incident table, so I will not update this. I will keep as is table as incident. Then here I will give a short description. So I will give it make service field mandatory. Okay, then okay, then I will save it. Okay, then I just wanted to make it mandatory. I don't have decided on which condition it should be mandatory. For now, my purpose is to make this field mandatory, service field. So here you have UI policy action. In the UI policy, when you go below, you have this related list. Okay, UI policy actions. Okay, so you will click on the new, and then here field name. Here you will be able to select any field on the incident form. Okay, or on the incident table. So here we will select the service field because that's what we wanted to make the mandatory. Okay, service, yes, service. Okay, so I selected this service field, and since I wanted to make it mandatory, I will select mandatory true and then submit. Okay, now I have this UI policy, okay, which is making this field, service field, mandatory. Okay, now currently this is not mandatory, but if I refresh the form, open the form, onwards, I will be able to see this service field is mandatory. And without this filling this field, I cannot, submit the form. It's mandatory. If I try to submit, the system will give me this error message. Okay. Now, what we want. So currently, the service field is mandatory, irrespective of any condition. Okay. Now, let's say what we want. We don't want the service field to be a mandatory all the time, but whenever you select the state as a software, at that time only we want this to be a mandatory. Otherwise we don't want this service to be a mandatory. Okay, so we can do that. We can add a condition. Okay, so you will go into the UI policy, and here you can add the condition. Okay, so what the condition is, the category is software. Okay, so now what will happen, only when the category is software, this service field will be mandatory, otherwise it will not. Okay, so you have condition category software, and then you are making this service field mandatory. Okay, so if I refresh the form, okay, so you can see that this service is not mandatory. Okay, so you can save the form without even filling the service field because it's not mandatory. But as you change the category to software, okay, you need to fill this service field as well, because we have a UI policy which has the condition. It will check the if the category is software, then making this mandatory. So when you select the category as software, you need to fill this field mandatory. Okay, you cannot save it without updating this field. Okay, again if you change it back, this will become non-mandatory, and you can save the form. Okay, so that's the UI policy. Any question? Okay, if no, then we'll move to the next topic, that is UI action. Okay, so what's the UI actions? So UI actions are basically the buttons, links, and the items in the context menu. Okay, it runs on the server side as well as client side. So this is interesting to know. The UI policy is one of the components which run on the both server side as well as client side. Okay. Okay, so if this you see these buttons like save, submit, copy, delete. So these are nothing but the UI actions. When you right click on the form or list, you see this, menu items, context menu and the items under that. So these are also the UI actions. Okay, so if I go here, so these buttons, what you see, these are called the UI actions. Okay, the links, here you see this link repair SLA. So this is also a UI action. If you right click here, you see save, add to visual dashboard, copy. incident or create outage. These are all UI actions. Okay. So if you wanted to create, some item in this context menu, you are going to create UI actions. When you have a requirement to create a button, you are going to create a UI actions. You have a requirement to display a link like this, then you are going to create a UI action. Okay. All right. So when to use UI actions? Whenever you want a button, okay, a button to perform some actions, you can use the UI actions. For example, you have an integration, okay, and you want your integration to be trigger on click of button, then you can create a button using the UI action. Okay, even yeah, even when the approvals are generated, so we'll see that approvals, you have an option to approve or reject. So you have the approve button, reject button, so those are also UI button. So whenever it comes, or whenever you see buttons in the service now, or whenever you see the context menu, or whenever you see this links, these are nothing but the UI actions. Okay, so let us see the UI actions. If you wanted to see the list of all the UI actions within the platform, you can just type here UI actions, and then under the system UI, you will get the list of all the UI actions, okay, in the system. Okay. However, if you just want, UI actions related to your form or current, in the current table or current form, then you can, just go here, configure UI actions. So it will open all the UI actions on the current incident table. Okay. Also, this parent, if you don't want to see the UI actions on the parent, you can just filter out. Okay. Now it remains it gives you the list of all the UI actions on the incident. Okay. For example, let's see this copy. Okay. Copy incident. Okay. Assigned to me. Okay. Resolve. Okay. So let's take a look into this resolve UI action. Where it is. Let me show 100. Okay. So resolve your action. Okay. So you see this button. Okay. Let's take a look into this. So this is nothing but this UI action resolve. Okay. So this is the name that will appear in a button, or even when it is a context menu, that is the name that is going to appear. Okay. So this, it will have, the UI action will have a name. It will have a table on which you wanted to show your UI action. Okay. And then this is a order, okay, in which you wanted to display the UI actions. Okay. So for example, let's say you have this three UI actions and you want to display them in a particular order. Okay. So you can have, let's say, if you wanted to display the update first and then resolve and then delete. Okay. Then you would have, let's say, update as order 100, resolve as order maybe 101 or 200, and then higher order than this delete. Okay. So to arrange them in order, you can use this order field. Okay. Action name, that is something you will be going to use when you want UI actions to be run on both server side as well as client side. Otherwise you can leave it blank. You can see it's not a mandatory, but whenever you are going to use, or you are going to have your UI action to be run on both server side and client side, then you require this UI action. So we'll discuss that later. But you can see that this is the UI action name, and you can see that this is used here. Okay, so what happens, as I said, UI actions runs on both server side and as well as client side. Okay, so okay, I will go here in a bit. Okay, but you can see the action name, whatever you provided here, is used here in the script. Okay, okay. Next, what you have on the UI actions, this flags like active. So active means it's active. If you don't know if this UI action is no longer required, you can just you know make it inactive so that it will not appear on the form. So it will be it's true for any of the components. So all of the components like business rule, UI. So we saw the UI policy. So even in the UI policy you will see the active flag. Okay, if you mark it inactive, the UI policy will not work. Okay, you will not see it's running. Okay, similarly, if you mark the UI action as inactive, so you will see it's not showing up, it's not working. Okay, so something you develop and it's no longer required, so you can just mark it inactive instead of deleting that. Okay, so that in future if you need it back, then you can just activate this. So this is the active flag. Show on insert, show update. So this is basically when it is click show insert, what that mean, whenever a record is new, so you just let's say you click on the create new, and then new form appears. If you want your action to be displayed even before the form is saved, when it's just new, it's not yet submitted, then you can have this checked. Show update, this is means when the form is already submitted and after that you wanted to show it, then you can click on this. If you want it to be show always, then you can click on both. Okay, then you see this client. Okay, so as I said, the UI policy can be run on both the client and server side. So if you want, so by default it will run on the server side, but if you want it to be run on both the client side as well as the U or the server side, then you need to check this box. Okay, client. So when you check this box, what happens, this field will show up. Okay, and here you will give an here you will um, mention the function name in which you wanted to define your client side script. Okay, so here you will give any name, the function name, but you need to define that function here. Okay, so you, let's say, you know you wanted to set some values when someone clicks on the or someone select the resolution state. Okay, so you will have this function defined, and then so here you will have function name, and in the script you will define this function, and in the function you will write the client side script that you wanted to execute. For example, here it looks when we click on the resolve button, it will set these values on the form. This is a client side script. Okay, we'll see this what the client side script, how you can write it in our upcoming section, but for now you can understand there are the two parts. One where you can write the client side script. Okay, here you will just define the function. First you will click on this checkbox client, then this field will appear. Here you will give a name of the function which you wanted to run on the client side, and then all the client side code you will write inside this function. You will actually define this function here. Okay, now so this is so this client side code start from this to this. Okay, and start from here and ends here. Okay, for a system to know when it should stop executing the client side code and jump to the server side code. So this is the server side code. The things outside this function is all the server side code. Okay, So for the system to know this is the point, I need to, stop executing the client-side script and jump on executing the server-side script. So this is the syntax. Okay, so you will use this gsft submit, then this is the, fixed format. Here you will, provide the name of action name. Okay, you will provide an action name. So as this statement occurred, system will stop executing this client side code and jump on executing the server side code. Okay. Okay, then what you have here, so this is how you want your, you know UI action to be appear. So here it is clicked as form button. Okay, so that's why you see this as a button. Okay. Okay, let's say you want, this to be shown here as well. Okay, as a context menu. Then here you can click on this form context menu, save it. If you refresh the form, same UI actions will be now available in the context menu as well. Okay, if you click here, now, yeah, so you can see this available here. Okay, so here, you have an option, to how you want it to display your UI actions. It can be a form button, it can be a menu item, it can be a link on the form. Again, there is couple of more options. You can, also have UI actions on the list layout as well. Okay, so we'll see that in the tomorrow's session. Okay. Okay, so we will be, stopping here, but if you have any question, please do let me know. Okay, so if not, then thank you for your time. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.